Kelly Huston here, editor of the eTail blog, and I'm at the Next Generation Customer Experience event where we're here with all types of professionals from all different verticals that are specializing in customer experience, which is sort of the new brand differentiator, wouldn't you say, Roei?
Yep, absolutely.
So Roei, sorry, say your name again, Ganzarski. Roei Ganzarski. He's from Boeing and is it the Chief Customer Experience Officer? Is that the correct title?
The Chief Customer Officer for Boeing Flight Services.
Okay, great. So Roei just gave a wonderful presentation talking about some of the things that they're doing at Boeing to differentiate themselves with the customer experience. And I just wanted to ask you a few questions about that. Could you highlight for us, first of all, how challenging was it for you to get this as sort of a focus area for your executive board to get leadership buy-in, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so initially it was a bit challenging because I know we produce phenomenal products and create great services, and it was hard for us to come to the realization that things were not as good as they could be. We were profitable, things were going great, but when we wanted to take that next step in growth, we really realized that the only way to do that is increase our customer satisfaction and our focus around the customer. So once we got to that realization, the next steps were a lot easier.
Now, was it hard because of Boeing's history? I know you talked a little bit about how you're an engineering culture. Can you talk about how that challenged you a little?
Yeah, it was a little bit challenging. We have phenomenal engineers at Boeing, and again, the products are absolutely phenomenal and very safety driven, right? None of the things we do, you want any compromise on safety, either from a corporate perspective or as a passenger myself. So when you talk about things that are a lot more, I'll call them soft, like the customer focus, it's a lot harder for our culture to really grasp. So it took us an extra step to kind of get around that, get our hands around it and see how we really do it.
Okay, great. Now, you talked a little bit about some of the specific things that you're doing in your department and across the organization to implement this idea of a customer focus. Can you highlight the three things that you do in your meetings and the meetings themselves?
Yeah, so what we started to do quite some time ago across our flight services division is something that we call the Customer Experience Review, the CER. And basically we get together weekly with the entire leadership team and we share some things that are purely around the customer. The first thing we share is successes. A lot of times we don't, as a company, and all companies inside the room we talked about as well, we don't take the time to celebrate the good news and the successes because we're so focused on trying to solve the problems. So the first thing we do is celebrate successes, new contracts that we won, great feedback from customers that we got, kudos that customers gave or other employees gave to other employees around the customer. So that's the first thing we do. The second thing we do is we bring up key issues revolving around either winning a customer or keeping a customer. And we bring it up not as a complaint or as a blaming issue, but rather we bring up the issue very objectively with facts and data, and then we ask for help. And that's the key issue. We don't bring up an issue in which we don't need help on. So we'll bring up the issue, ask for help, and then we'll acknowledge as a leadership team the fact that we need help, and then we'll see who from the leadership team will take on to solve this challenge and help us. And we don't leave the room before someone has actually taken that on and say, I will actually solve that problem. So that's the second thing we do, and it really makes it personal. The third thing we do is we show the one metric. It's a metric that we created internally at Flight Services, and it's really all around creating some sort of common language and common pull that will bring employees together around the customer. The metric consists of various variables in it. Some of them are customer feedback, executive feedback from customers. The other is employee feedback, because what we found is that employees that aren't happy or don't believe that we provide the right service to customers, in fact, will fulfill that and we'll be having a what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we don't think we're delivering good service, we won't deliver good service. If we feel we are, we will. So we take all of those input points together and create a monthly review which comes and compiles into one number, the one metric, and we share that at every single staff meeting in order to create discussion around what can we as individuals and as leaders do to change that metric up.
Now, you mentioned that getting to that metric actually and getting the leadership buy-in for having that metric was actually a little more difficult than implementing the metric itself and measuring it. Why was that? Well,
it goes back to, focus around the great products and services we have, and bringing up some sort of metric that isn't necessarily a clear, measurable target. It's very clear to look at the asset turns, to look at utilization, to look at response times, things that are very clear-cut and are single-focused. The customer metric that we created has a lot of variables that go into it, and that was a little difficult for people to get their arms around and look at and say, okay, well, how do I change it? and we kept looking for what is the action we can take to change the problem that drove, for example, the score down, or what specific action do we need to take to drive the score up, when in fact that score, if you will, or that metric, was all about creating discussion, not creating direct action from it.
Right, and I think you mentioned that your culture, they love charts, they love metrics, you invent names for charts, so that must have been challenging to try and implement that. But one more question for you is, lots of people here, lots of people out there who are watching probably have trouble getting other departments bought into this idea of customer experience because they feel, well, I'm in IT or I'm in legal, I don't have any kind of customer-facing responsibilities. How can you combat that?
The best thing we did was, well, there's two things. One, share the information. There's a very few people, select percentages, that have the privilege of working with a customer. Be it a satisfied or dissatisfied customer, we view it as a privilege to be able to deal with the customers. Share that experience. One of the ways was, as I mentioned, the customer experience review. Other ways are just telling stories. Go to staff meetings. We meet with employees one-on-one. Tell them what it's like to deal with customers. The second thing is we bring the customers with us. So if we have customer-facing meetings, we'll sometimes take people who don't face the customer to sit in that meeting. If we take them to a tour around our facilities, we'll take non-customer-facing employees on that tour so that they can see that the customers aren't just a name of an airline or a name of an organization. It's real people with real jobs and real challenges that they are looking at to us to solve. And those employees can suddenly get that personal touch and personal feel of, wait a minute, I actually do make a difference. Even though I may be in IT or finance or legal where I don't necessarily deal directly with a customer, I can now see the impact I bring.
Well, thank you so much, Roei. It was a great presentation. We'll let you get back to the rest of the day. Before I let you go, though, can I ask you, is this your first customer experience event? Or next generation customer experience, rather?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. And how are you finding it so far? You just get here, or were you here yesterday?
No, I just got here.
Oh, okay. Well, then we can't ask you that yet. I'll ask you later today. Hopefully it's going well for you. But thank you again, and have a great conference.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.